Okay, thank you very much for joining me today, and we are going to cover an amazing thing, which is technical SEO for e-commerce websites. So I see that there are more people there. I just want to make sure that I have someone more also confirming that you can hear and see me. So please do in this chat, and I'll start in just 30 seconds. Okay. Okay, I guess everybody's shy. That's fine. If you're going to have any questions during the webinar, you can post them in the chat. I have some questions that you submitted beforehand. I'll answer them at the end. And also feel free to, yay, Olivia, amazing. Exactly, yeah, you can, you can write questions here, and I'll try to cover as many questions as possible. Now I'm going to share my screen and start talking about very important and serious things. Okay, so today we are going to talk about technical SEO for e-commerce websites, or an alternative version for this talk is how to not screw up even if big brands are doing it, because nobody wants to screw up, right? My name is Kristina Azarenko. I'm an e-commerce and technical SEO consultant based in Toronto, Canada. I help businesses thrive online and get traffic and sales they deserve. I also created the SEO Challenge course for people who want to learn SEO. I have a free e-commerce SEO newsletter, and I'm going to give you some more details at the end. I'm an international speaker, and I'm a quarantine dollhouse builder. I've been in digital marketing and SEO for more than 10 years, and I have an opportunity to work with small and huge brands, including Carfax, Maple, London School of Business and Finance, and many others. And I also was featured on many industry blogs. I'm sure you know most of them, like Search Engine Land, Business.com, Hotjar, SEMrush. So yeah, let's start. My goal for this webinar is to show you how technical SEO can really help your overall marketing strategy and have a huge impact on your store's revenue. And one thing that I want you to understand is that the best way to get consistent traffic and customers from search to your website, to your online store, is to get the foundation right. It means that you need to get Google see and index the pages that it needs to see and index, and hide pages that it doesn't need to see because these pages don't have any value. And the only way to get the foundation right is to make the technical SEO work for you. So technical SEO basically is part of the overall picture of the overall puzzle. And this picture has only 2 pieces of puzzle, but trust me, there are many more, and you need to make sure that they're fit together instead of having something that you currently see on the screen. By the way, if something that I'm going to talk about today resonates with you and you want to share this, you can make a screenshot and post it on LinkedIn or Twitter. You can see my Twitter handle at the bottom. So tag me and share your thoughts. Amazing. So when you're not doing technical SEO right, you are basically wasting money. And what I mean by that, no matter how good your content strategy might be, you might still be missing if technical SEO is not done correctly. I'll give you a little story from my experience. I had a client, and they had an amazing content strategy. I gave them keyword research, which would definitely make them, rank in their space and attract their ideal customers. They created the pages. They spent time and efforts, resources on writing the best content out there, and this content was obviously unique and very valuable to their potential customers. So they added pages to the website, and then nothing happened. And when I was looking at what could potentially go wrong with it, I found out that Google could actually see only the top navigation and the footer. And it couldn't see anything in between, which basically means that their awesome, amazing content didn't exist for Google. And that's where technical SEO comes into play, making sure that everything is done correctly and you are sending the right signals to Google. Here's another example. I have an e-commerce client, and this is a case study from my website. We increased sales by over 5,400%, which is insane. And organic traffic, which is traffic from Google, increased by 657%, which is also insane. Part of this was a little bit content tweaks, but the main part was fixing the technical SEO installation. They were on WooCommerce, and this platform, while it's amazing, it still has some pitfalls in terms of technical SEO. So fixing those really made a huge difference for their business. So in today's webinar, you'll learn 3 specific challenges that online stores are facing. You'll also learn how big e-commerce brands screw up their SEO and how to be different. Let's dive in. So first of all, when it comes to technical SEO, it's relevant for any website, any type of website. But there are some particular things that are specifically important and specific to online stores. There are actually not only 3 of them, but I'm going to cover the main ones. And first of them is content duplication. The examples can be the same product in multiple categories and has different URLs. So basically creating 2 duplicate pages with the same product, or many product variations living on separate URLs, or the same categories with different URLs. That basically was the case for this online store that showed in the case study. They had the same categories, but with different URLs. And one more thing is content copies from manufacturers. This is not actually a technical SEO part, but this is part of content duplication. That's why I wanted to include it here as well. When you just copy the information that all other resellers are copying on their website, so how do you stand out? This is a question, right? So here's an example of how content duplication might look like. This is an example of a product URL. And depending on the user journey, the URL is different. The URL for the same product is different. So let's say we have V-neck slim fit top, right? And if I navigate to this product via women t-shirts, it will have one URL. Or if I navigate to this URL via t-shirts women, it has another URL. And this doesn't actually serve you. And I'm going to cover some more details in a few minutes, but for now, you just need to know that duplicating, having this type of duplication is not really helpful to your website. The next specifically e-commerce issue that can, it's not an issue, it's just a fact that works for online stores, but which can cause some technical issues. So it's flexible stock, because products come and go, and you need to quickly communicate this to Google so that it sends customers to the right pages. And the thing is that many websites, how they handle it, they just remove pages of products which go out of stock. And this means that you're just losing many wins that you've already acquired, both from a customer perspective and from a technical SEO perspective, and in general SEO and revenue perspective. I'm also going to show you an example and talk about it in detail soon. And the third pitfall of online stores is faceted navigation. And so it's basically filters and sorting options. I also include sorting options here because they act almost the same, in terms of creating new URLs. So that's why I've included sorting options under the faceted navigation as well. Here's an example. So faceted navigation basically helps to drill down and find specific products. For example, if I need to find women's t-shirts of green color, New Balance brand, and for example, a short sleeve, I can click all the filters, apply them, and see the exact products that I need. It's in case I definitely know what I need. It's not always the case for customers, right? But at the end of the day, if each filter creates a unique URL, which is then picked up and indexed by Google, it's creating lots of thin or duplicate content, which is not serving your website. So I'm going to talk about each of these pitfalls using examples from big brands. So how big e-commerce brands scrub their SEO and how to be different. So first of all, Well.ca, they have duplicate pages. And the examples of these duplicate pages are the following. You basically see that these pages are the same. I know that these are just part of the pages, but trust me, they're the same. You can even see that the breadcrumbs are the same. The products that you can see there are the same as well. But if you look at the URLs, they are different. The first URL is shampoo, and the second URL is daily care shampoo, which basically means that they have two URLs for the same set of products, for basically the same user intent, the same thing. And why having duplicate pages is bad? Because when you have them, you just make Google decide which of these pages is better for you. And what I mean by that, what happens sometimes? Sometimes Google would think, okay, page A is better, but the next week they might think, okay, page B is better. So there's going to be back and forth in the search results. And this means that you don't have one strong page which has really great potential to rank. You just jumping from this to that page. And also, Google has such things as web deduplication. What this means is that Google identifies a cluster of duplicate web pages, and in this case, these two categories having the same content but different URLs are treated as a cluster, and then Google picks up a representative URL. It might sound like, okay, that sounds amazing, I don't need to do anything, right? But that's not true, because guess what happens when you let others, and in this case, Google, decide something for you? It means that they might not decide something in your favor. So your responsibility is to communicate properly what you want Google to perceive as the main URL. What you can do in this case, first of all, how you can handle in general duplicate content like that. You can choose the canonical version of the URL. So basically, if you have page A and page B, and you choose page A as the canonical tag, as a canonical page, then you need to communicate it to Google by using canonicals or 301 redirect. So 301 redirect is something different when you don't actually need to have both pages available for customers. But if you do need those pages, you can just use the canonicals. So for my example, if you have page 1 and page 2, and page 1 is canonical, it means that it has canonical pointing to page 1, and page 2 has a canonical pointing to page 1. And what's also important here is to make sure that your internal linking points to page 1 as well, because what you communicate through your internal links also is picked up by Google. So if you say, okay, I want you to treat page 1 as a canonical page, and then you link throughout the website, you link to only page 2, you're sending contradicting signals. So make sure that when you choose the canonical page, you stick with it and you link to it, and you have also this page in your sitemap XML. The next example is Shopakira. Missing product pages. So it basically goes back to having flexible stock. Some products go in stock, some products go out of stock. And as I said, many companies handle this just by 404 these pages, so that you just see, okay, this page doesn't exist. And no matter how cute your 404 page is, it doesn't really matter, because it doesn't help you convert users into customers. So in Shopakira case, it's by the way, it's women's clothes retailer, quite huge, I would say. So in their case, what they were doing, and what I discovered why I was browsing their website. That's what I usually do. Try to browse e-commerce websites, find some products, and then I end up checking canonicals and all the stuff. It's just very funny. I'm an SEO at my core. So when I was browsing their catalog, I saw that, okay, I opened a product page, and I realized that it actually doesn't show me the product. It just redirects me using 302 redirects to some search page, which uses my URL as a search term. So it's the same outcome if I would just take this URL and put it in the search box, and it gave back to me just some random default products in the search. And this just doesn't make any sense, because they don't provide any value to me, and I have no idea so if I didn't check this, I wouldn't have any idea how I appeared, how I ended up on this page. And why missing pages are hurting your website. When I say missing pages, this Shopakira example applies, and also when you are just 404 your product pages. Why it's hurting your business? First of all, they turn away potential customers, because you make them think, what's going on? What just happened? I wanted to visit this page, I wanted to get this product, and now I'm somewhere else. What's going on? They also decrease your revenue, basically by making people think and by not providing options in an easy-to-use way. And what is also important from an SEO point of view, they are black holes for website authority. When I say website authority, what I mean is links. And links are treated as votes. So basically, if your product page has a number of links coming to it, and you just remove this page, it means that you're just cutting off all these links, or link juice. I don't really like link juice term, but it's a good way to describe it. So you're just cutting off all this link juice, which is pouring to the website through this product page. So that's something that you don't want to do. And think about that. If you have, for example, 10, 20, 100 pages like this, you're losing all these minor wins in terms of getting your website authority. And that just doesn't serve you at all. So how to handle the missing pages the right way? First of all, you need to set up a clear process to follow when a product page goes out of stock. If a product goes out of stock temporarily, you need to first of all leave the page and serve a 200 HTTP status code, which basically says that the page exists, everything is fine, and yeah, everything is fine, and it can be accessed. Step 2 is to add alternative products people can actually buy instead of the product that they initially wanted to buy. It means that you're giving options, and there is a high chance that people will see, okay, this product is out of stock, that's fine, but I have another product that I can use instead. It greatly improves conversions, and it also improves the overall authority of your website. Or if the products are coming out of stock permanently, for example, the manufacturer is not going to produce anymore, what you can do, you can leave the page for a while, also serving 200 HTTP status code, adding similar or products like that can be bought instead. And after that, after a while, you can redirect the page to a similar product or to the category that this out-of-stock product used to belong to. So an important thing to tell you here is that this is a general process which will definitely work for any type of online store. But each online store has its peculiar things. So I'd say that you need to consider what you have and then build a process tailored specifically to your online store. Because something that, for example, H&M might be using might not be a really good solution for yourself. So it's important to consider all the things inside your specific situation case, and then build a process based on this, tailored to your website. Okay, so the main point here is that you don't need to waste the money and effort spent on acquiring a potential customer. Just think about that. Customers coming to your website are not free. You spend, there is a money you input via doing SEO, via doing paid ads, or paying people who are doing your social media. Right, there are money that you spend acquiring these customers. And if you already spend this money and the customer is on your website, but they just can't find something, some product that is now missing, which is now out of stock, they just leave, right? And all this money that you've already spent is just wasted. So that's important to know. That's important to consider this from this angle. And the third thing that I wanted to show you today is Nike and how they're screwing up their faceted navigation and sorting. So here is an example. They have sorting on their category pages when you can sort, for example, from by price, descending or ascending, it doesn't even matter. So every time you sort, there is a parameter which is added to the URL. And then, as you can see, I'm currently on this screenshot on the URL of the sorted page. And the canonical points to this very page. What it means that you're telling Google, okay, treat this as a separate page that needs to be ranked and needs to be indexed. But that's not true, because this page is actually thin content. It's almost duplicate content. It duplicates the original, in this case, Jordan tops and t-shirts page. And when I checked how many such pages are out there in Google's index for Nike, it's actually 611 results. I believe there is even more. This is just a sample what Google shows, but it's basically having an evil twin or even multiple evil twins for every category page on your website. And another thing that they're doing really weird is that when you apply filters men and women simultaneously, they set up a canonical pointing to the homepage. And this is weird because in this case you would need to have a canonical pointing to the initial category, right? If I'm on big and tall tops and t-shirts category, it should point to big and tall tops and t-shirts category. So not the home page, because when you're using canonical to point from one page to a page which is completely different, Google can just easily ignore your canonical. And they even did an experiment with this, and this experiment proved that Google ignores canonicals pointing to the pages which are completely different from the initial page. So this is how Nike is screwing up, and now I'm going to tell you how to handle this, to handle the faceted navigation and how to handle the sorting the right way. So what do you need to do? You need to index only valuable pages and canonicalize or index the rest. So you need to index only the pages without any parameters and canonicalize the rest to the category pages. For example, if it's a category for green t-shirts, right, and you're applying, for example, green t-shirts descending, ascending order, this page, this new URL which is created, should canonicalize to the green t-shirts page. And why I'm saying or no index here? Because sometimes if the website is huge, there is such thing as crawl budget. And if you have millions and millions of URLs which are just canonicalized, you can face an issue with crawl budget. Basically, it's a limit. It's a limit that Google has in terms of processing pages on your website. But one thing important here, you need to either canonicalize or no index. You never want to do them at the same time, because in order to pick up your canonical, Google needs to index your page. And if you set no index, it means that Google can't pick up your canonical. This is one of the issues that I see all the time on websites when they try to, do as many things as possible, And together, when you mix them together, they don't make any sense, like using canonical and the index at the same time. The main point of handling the filtered navigation, like faceted navigation and sorting, is that you don't need to create a monster you won't be able to handle. Think about that. If you have a category and there is an infinite, basically, number of new URLs that can be generated based on which filters applied, in which order they apply, you are creating a monster you won't be able to control. And that's also a way, a thing that you need to think about and create a process for your specific scenario. You need to make sure that your Google index is clean, because Google evaluates your website based on what you have in your index. And if most of your index is, just some theme pages, duplicate content, it means that your website is not perceived as good as it could potentially be perceived. And that actually happened with one of my clients. When I started working with them, I saw that it's a relatively small online store. They had just, I think, 200 of products. But then I checked the index and I realized that they had thousands and thousands of pages indexed. And it was weird. When I checked, I realized that 95% of all the indexed pages are just sorting and filtering options, which is insane. And after fixing this, after making sure that only the right pages are found in the index, Google understands which pages need to be ranked and which pages should be canonicalized. They saw a really huge increase in their traffic and, as a result, sales. There is one thing that I wanted to point out as well. When it comes to filters, there is actually a way to create valuable subcategories based on the filters. And I created I call it an 8-step e-commerce framework to do this. So basically, I'm not going to cover all of this now because it's another 20-minute talk that I did for a few conferences. But you can check out all the information, all the steps, and even acceptance criteria on this URL. You can screenshot it, you can just write it down, and you can go to this URL and check it out. So the main takeaways. The takeaway 1. You do need to think about the technical SEO aspects for your online store, because failing to do so costs you money. As we already discussed, as I already basically told you, you lose money because you spend money on attracting customers, and if you're not doing the right things, they can't just leave your website. And also, you are spending money on your content, you're spending money on, in general, content strategy, keyword research, and all these things, all these very important things. But if your technical foundation is not right, you're just going to waste all this budget, most of this, or just part of this budget, but it will still result in wasting it. The takeaway 2 is that you don't need to fix everything over and over again. This is something that I tell my clients all the time. You don't need to fix the same things. You need to build a process ensuring the same issues won't even happen in the first place. So, for example, if we talk about products coming out of stock, you don't need to fix every single product. What if daily there are 10 products that are going out of stock? You just won't have capacity to do this, and hiring a person to do this, like a separate person to do this, is also not a very efficient way to approach the situation. So you need to find similar scenarios what are happening with your online store, and to build a process of handling them. It's more scalable. I'm all about scalability, and this really, because it saves money and it's more efficient. And the third takeaway is that you need to keep your index clean. No sorting, no filtering pages that don't provide any value. That's very important. At the end of the day, you have 2 options. You can either ignore the technical part and never reach your potential, or you can spend time fixing the foundation and enjoy the money and traffic that's coming into your website. So you basically have to choose between the red pill and the blue pill. Oh yeah, so I also have an e-commerce SEO newsletter that I started last month, but I already have, I think, almost 500 subscribers already. And I send free e-commerce SEO tips every other week. So sign up, and you'll get the email. The next email is scheduled, I think, in 2 hours. So if you sign up till then, you'll get this email. And now I'm going to answer the questions that I got before. I have my phone. I have a number of questions that came before. So when you were signing up, you had an opportunity to leave your question there. So I'll try to go over as many questions as possible, and then I'll switch to the questions in the chat, because currently I can't see the chat. Okay, so the first question is applicable for WooCommerce. I think the question is it applicable for WooCommerce? Everything that I talked about is applicable for WooCommerce, and everything that I'm going to send in my e-commerce newsletter is applicable to it as well, 100%. And as I said, the case study that I showed you in the beginning was for a website which is on WooCommerce. The next question is how we can optimize a number of products on a big website like Amazon. It's a great question, and what I can tell you here is that you need to build a process. You need to find the main things that are wrong right now, how they should be improved, and then basically create a process for this. So, for example, if you need to come up with, new content for all these pages, if you need to add unique content there, you can add FAQ section to these pages. You can let your customers ask and answer questions. That's basically how Amazon does it. And these questions and answers will be unique content that you can add to your website basically for free, because users are going to generate this content. And if this website is so huge, I assume that you have lots of customers there. So there shouldn't be any issue in this. Another way is to add reviews, for example. But yeah, what I also recommend is it's not only about technical SEO, right? It's also about in general SEO. What I also recommend is having templates for generating title tags so that it's scalable. For example, you use specific variables that you pull up to your title tags and generate these title tags automatically. For example, if this is a product by a particular manufacturer of particular color and of particular size, generate a title tag, include these variables in your title tag. For example, in Magento, I used to work for a company which is called Amasti. They produce Magento extensions, and they had an extension title tag templates. That's basically what it does. It helps you pull out the variables that you have for your products, product options as well, and generate title tags based on this. Because you can't go over each and every product and do this manually. It will just be a nightmare. Having something like that, having processes in place, really helps to scale this. The next question is, how can I increase sales? Thanks. That's an awesome question. And it's not only about SEO, it's also a lot about conversion rate optimization and really thinking about your target audience, maybe asking what they're looking for on your website in order to give it to them. The next question is how to manage your URL for a product when you have many options for it. It's an amazing question. As I have many questions, I'm not going to cover the full answer right now, because as I said, I have this newsletter. I'm basically sending it in, let me check, almost 3 hours, even less. And this issue of this newsletter is going to have the answer to this specific question, because I wrote it, I think, 2 days ago, and then I saw this question. I was like, oh, yeah, amazing. So yeah, just sign up for this letter, and you have a very detailed answer to this. Okay, the next question is, when listing a vendor's products in the store using their data feeds, how can we avoid those looking too much like duplicate content from other people's stores? So quickly, there are three main ways to add unique content. First of all, using FAQ sections that you can write yourself, but they are going to be tailored to specifically your store. Also, having them FAQ sections generated by users. Again, when they ask questions and then other users answer, or your company answers, this works as well. Then reviews, they are going to be unique for your specific store, not for the manufacturer, not for other stores. And also let customers add their images of the products in the reviews, because if you're copying everything, the images are the same as well. But it's really great to have something which is, unique and shows your product in a normal setting, as if like after a customer bought it, how it really actually looks like and how it can be applied. This helps a lot with adding unique content. Okay, the next question is, what are the best technical SEO courses? I don't actually know, but what I can tell you is that I have the SEO Challenge course, and there is you can check it out on my website, which is marketingsyrup.com, and it has a huge part on technical SEO, because I love technical SEO, and I talk there a lot about specifically e-commerce side of it, and how to do website audits, and how to, actually everything. So yeah, check it out. Should I add all subcategories in top menu visible on all pages, or only categories? I'm going to answer with the most common answer in SEO. It depends, because if you have just 5 categories and each of them has 3 subcategories, that's fine. That's fine. You can add it in the main navigation. That's amazing. But if you're like Amazon and you have thousands and thousands of links, this is a bad idea. So it all depends on how huge your website is. How to optimize images for an e-commerce website other than alt tag. So one thing that I did for one of the customers, and it worked really well. If you want to target image search, Google image search, you should make sure that your images are communicating what they are about. In addition to alt tag, what you can also do is to name your images properly. Instead of having something like image 123 background 0, or I don't know, just something randomly generated, or just image pic, something like that, name the images properly. For example, instead of saying image 123, you can say Magento 2 extension for generating title tags. And this is going to be the name of the image. So it gives, it also helps Google to pick up, in addition to alternative tags, it also helps Google to pick up what's on the image. Use this and do this 100%. And also make sure that images are added in image HTML tags, not via CSS, because via CSS they are just not picked up by Google. Just normal images, image source, and etc. So like HTML tag. E-commerce conversion tracking. I'm not sure what this question means, but yeah, you do need to track conversions on your e-commerce website. At least you can switch on e-commerce tracking in Google Analytics. You will just need to set up a code on the thank you page. Or you can set up enhanced e-commerce, which is harder, but is also possible. How do you address the duplicate content issues stemming from similar products in the catalog? That goes back to the question about how to handle duplicate content when there are multiple product variations. So yeah, sign up for the newsletter and is going to have an answer today. what SEO issues can be ignored. I'd say that if I if I chose my favorite question, that would be my favorite one. What SEO issues can be ignored? The thing is, when I was starting, and I think that when everybody starts, they are like, we need to fix everything. We need to fix this tiny part, this small thing, and you just don't even think how it fits in the whole picture. So what I usually say, what I usually do is estimate how fixing this or that issue can influence the overall, which impact basically it's going to have. Because if you see so many issues in your Google Search Console, for example, in coverage report, the question is, do you really need to fix them? It's like, no. So I'd say that there are no one specific thing that I'd say always ignore it. It just depends on the scale. For example, having a link which goes through a redirect. For example, there used to be page A, and then you redirected it to page B, but you still link to page A. It's not good. It's not the best solution in terms of SEO, in terms of speed. But if it's just one link, you don't really need to sweat about that. You can just ignore this and don't fix it, because what's the impact? The impact is going to be zero. So it's basically seeing, evaluating impact and effort, and if the impact is worth it, you need to fix it. If not, then you just can schedule it for some rainy day, or you can just ignore it. But I wouldn't recommend ignoring. So I wouldn't recommend just deciding, okay, these are like this specific issue. I don't need to think about that. Yeah, I'll just think about the scale and the scale and how much effort it will take you to fix this. Okay, now I'm going to stop. Yeah, by the way, the last slide. Thank you. Now I'm going to go to my to the chat, and Masha.
Yes.
Yeah, Masha.
Yes. So we have just about two questions here. One is about duplicacy. I guess you told that you will have it in your newsletter, right? You will cover it.
Yeah. So duplicacy, I don't know what exact. I mean,
yes. They ask how we need to overcome duplicacy noodles which come after applying filters in product pages.
That's amazing. That's exactly what I covered in this in this webinar. Exactly what I covered. So if you missed it, just then watch the replay, because that's exactly what it was talking about.
That was just at the beginning of the webinar. So I guess that's why this question appeared. Okay, and then Phil asks, with a semi-permanent redirect, would you redirect 302 to the similar product? What would you do? Do you know?
So I wouldn't use a 302 redirect at all for these kind of things. If you need to, so if you're either redirecting or not. Because if you just redirect today and then in 2 weeks this product, for example, is in stock, you shouldn't have redirected this in the first place, right? So redirect only when you're sure that this page, the initial page, is not going to be replaced, is not going to actually, that you don't need it at all, and use only a 301 redirect for this.
I see. And also Phil was surprised by your advice to use canonical to the home page.
It's not my advice. So again, if you watch it, you'll hear what I talked about that. I said that it's weird, and what I was showing you is how big brands are screwing up. Screw up means that they're not doing this right. And one of the examples was that filters. Well, when two filters are applied, the canonical goes to the homepage, which I said is very weird. And the right way to do this is to canonicalize to the category page, not to the homepage.
I see. Oh, Phil said that Phil writes here that yes, he agreed that it was weird that they did it. So that's what he meant, really. Okay.
I think it's just not something that you're missing that slips through the cracks. It's not like somebody was sitting there and thinking, okay, what should we do? Should we canonicalize to the homepage? Yeah, it's a good idea. I don't think that most of the technical things are happening like this. I think that most of them are just something that slapped through the cracks when you are just not checking the website, you're not auditing it regularly, and some things are happening. Sometimes content management systems are responsible for most of this junk, and you just need to handle it. That's it.
I see. And these are all the questions. So thank you, Kristina. It was a wonderful presentation.
Amazing. Thank you, everyone. As I said, you can connect with me on Twitter. And you can also find me on LinkedIn. If you have any questions, reach out to me. And I believe that the replay of this session will be available soon on Serpstat YouTube channel. So yeah, you will also be emailed the link, I believe, because sometimes that I get questions, oh, when is going to be the replay? So I want to make sure that it's covered as well. And sign up for the newsletter. Go and play with your online stores, make them awesome, amazing from an SEO perspective and from a UX perspective. Get money, revenue, get customers. All the good luck to you.
Thank you, Kristina. Thanks for your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.